Welcome to the Union Fitness Podcast with your host, myself, Charles Jasper, and I was kidding. I know I'm Todd Hammer. Who were you?
I'm the MC.
Charles.
I'm the hype man.
My man Charles Jasper over here.
Flavor Flav in the
Todd
corner.
Hammer, Charles Jasper, as always, the finest producer in all of the land, Josh Elsat, behind the turntables today. He is my Terminator X. I am Chuck D. You are Flavor Flav.
Killer Mike, at least.
Killer Mike, whatever. So today, our guest is saying what is going on in this place. Today we have one of our members here, Tyrone Gilliard, who he's going to tell you his story to us today and a little bit about himself. But a few months ago, I saw him in here training. He was a pretty strong guy and everything. We just got talking. And it turns out we kind of knew some of the same people, had some friends in common, kind of hit it off. And after a while, I said, hey, man, let's have you on the podcast. So first off, Tyrone, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be on.
You know, we're great. We're happy to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're sitting here with us today.
Lay it out.
Well, hey, I've been in Pittsburgh since 2001. I played football at Pitt. From 2001 to 2005, the year we went to the Fiesta Bowl and lost to Utah, but we'll talk about that later.
Was that the year you shocked the world? When did Pitt shock the world with the West Virginia big upset?
I want to say that's 2009.
So a little later down the road.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
at that game.
Okay.
Hands
I
been
came
doing
back
more.
down for that game.
Oh, it definitely was in WVU.
It was in WVU,
Yes.
that one,
That's
yeah.
that one. Well, the problem. We didn't even get into this yet. I'm sorry. Pitt shocked West Virginia like once every 3 years, where West Virginia was like top 10 team and Pitt was 4-7 and won.
Yeah.
So I maybe I was at the wrong one, but so I'm sorry. So you played at Pitt.
Yes, I played at Pitt from 2001 to 2005. Once done with that, fooled around with some semi-pro, things like that. Never played in any arena. Started my life. Had a job, got married, kids, and, now I'm just a casual fan that watches, critiques the game.
Do you ever get mad and just throw stuff at the TV? Like, why would you call that?
No, I'm not that type of person to throw anything at my TV. I like my TV very much.
Sure,
so,
you're a smart person.
Yeah. I don't understand why people get that mad. They want to punch their TV, throw their TV, break their remote control.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make much sense. But yeah, so I'm just a married guy, kids. I like to stay in shape. I can't. What's the word I'm trying to say? I get a little bored, so I like to keep up with myself, and I just living life right now and enjoying myself.
So before we get too serious, I have some serious questions, but I have to ask this one. You played during the Wanstash years.
No. Right? Actually, I played with Walt Harris years.
Walt Harris. You didn't have
Wanstead came the year after I was done.
Okay, because I was going to say, does any man have a stronger mustache?
You know what? I did meet Wanstead. He invited me to speak to his players one time. And, when I was talking to him, you can't not notice.
It's like Magnum PI.
Yeah, that's a
It's a great mustache. Look, it's a great mustache.
If you're going to have a mustache, make it strong, Josh.
They should definitely use him as the November, man of the month calendar. He would be in that.
Walt Harris was not a facial hair kind of guy.
No, he wasn't. He was clean cut kind of guy. But yeah, with Wanstash, the Wanstash. The Pitt fans, students, they had at the games with this mustache. If you didn't recognize that, it was actually a pretty cool thing.
That dude was about as Pittsburgh as they came. But
yes, he was.
So I wanted to, and we talked about this before, one thing, I really wanted to delve into is I think something a lot of people struggle with, and I know we talked about this, a guy who I've known a long time, a long time, works at Pitt, helping, doing life skills, is the transition that people have from one part of life to a new part. And I think, for you as a football player, you transition, like I said, one day you're playing a Fiesta Bowl, 6 months later you expect to get a job. And I know Penny Samaya, I've heard him tell great stories about selling hot dogs down on the street, and trying to figure out his life. And as lifters, we have a lot of competitive lifters here. There's every chapter ends.
Yeah.
What advice do you have? What do you think helped you? Because you're successful in your career now.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm just a guy working and raising my kids and having a family and doing my thing. But what made you successful moving from one day playing in a BCS bowl to, working your job?
Well, what made me successful was time and maturity. It was definitely difficult at times, especially the early part. When you're 4 or 5 years removed or 3 or 4 years removed, you still think you can play. You still have opportunities to play. You're trying to play semi-pro. Maybe if I play semi-pro in this league, they'll get that look. Or arena football, which was very popular. I did try arena football, but I did something to my pinky, and it didn't work out for me. And so that was there and it was gone. But you think you have an opportunity. It's all you know. You spend, a lot of these guys spend most of their lives playing, preparing, practicing. You get the accolades. People tell you how good you are. Then you go to college, and then then you manage to be good enough to play. And now you got a bigger audience looking at you, telling you can play. You're good. You're working hard. You're busting your butt. And then the people that, more importantly, you want to tell you that you're good, say that you're not. As simple as that. And now you're just trying to figure things out. And for a while, for me, it was definitely tough mentally. Again, you just want to play, and you're this close. And I can understand if I didn't play at Pitt at the time, or I didn't start, I can adjust a little easier. But again, when you're this close and your goal isn't reached, it hurts a little bit.
You made me think of a guy who was at Pitt when I was an intern under Buddy Morris there, DJ Dinkins.
Yes.
And DJ had, a story where he came out, got a job, was working, and played for the Pittsburgh Colts.
Yeah.
The minor league football, a couple $100 a game. Ends up, I think, getting picked up by Giants. Won a Super Bowl, I think. He played quite a few years, if I remember correctly. I don't know.
10 years.
Is he still around the Pittsburgh area?
He's definitely around the Pittsburgh area.
Okay.
I think the thing that DJ had going for him was, is size.
Huge.
Size. He's a massive man. And he, at the time, when I met DJ, he was a free safety.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
6'4", 250-pound free safety.
Exactly.
Josh, you need to find a video of DJ Dinkins and LeVar Arrington nose to nose in the Pitt Penn State game.
Okay.
I remember when LeVar Arrington roughed the punter. The punter, I forget his name now, but he was a wrestler at Pitt. Little dude, and he tried to sweep LeVar Arrington's leg. And then
I saw that. That was on ESPN.
And then
TV,
DJ and LeVar, and these two dudes those were two put together fellas right there. And they were nose to nose. That might be it right there. They were nose to nose. There's a play right here.
Yeah.
I was at this game at Penn State because
I've never been to
Beaver Stadium,
Happy Valley.
we're gonna take a trip.
It gets loud.
So he comes up and kind of pops them.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was late as heck.
Dirty, just a dirty little hit.
And I was just
but
playing games.
Oh, they didn't show DJ come in here, man. But I mean, DJ was a good, 240, I'd guess.
I think that's
him
right
Yeah, there he is.
That's
that's two dudes I wouldn't want to get between.
No.
What position did he play?
LeVar was the linebacker. DJ was basically a safety who could have been a linebacker.
Yeah. He played a little bit of everything. DJ could have played linebacker.
That's a big safety.
He played tight end, and when professionally, I don't know how long he played tight end, but when you got a guy that size and that athletic,
you'll find something.
Yeah.
At
least you'll try. Definitely.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
He was a quarterback.
Yes,
so
he was.
That dude was a
Yes,
freak
he
of
was.
an athlete. But I think one of the downsides as a guy who coached a lot of college athletes is that they see a DJ.
Yes.
And they think, hey, here's the roughing. This was the one that when he took him down. I mean, that was just beyond dirty right there from LeVar. But I think so often people hear that story of DJ.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I can
That's
go
me.
pro, and it's like the reality is you can't. And I think the
Exactly.
hardest conversation I've had out with athletes over the years is, listen, you're not going pro, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you can take the skills you learn through sport and move those into that next arena, the hard work, to being a good teammate, to knowing your place on the team.
Exactly.
Because, interesting, LeVar Arrington was just on screen. The dude at Penn State just did everything. It was all over the field. But he was like a Troy Polamalu. Just
Yes.
do what you want. He never fit into an NFL system. And I think part of it is he never knew his place. And when you watch him play in the NFL, my theory was that at Penn State he was just the best guy, hands down.
Yes.
Then you go to the NFL, and now you have to be a cog.
Yeah.
And I think learning that from the athlete, that's a hard thing. And to accept that, hey, I'm one cog. I keep this job rolling. I keep this company rolling by doing my job.
Yeah.
I don't have to jump over the lineman to get there.
Yeah.
I just have to clog the hole up. And
Absolutely.
did you find a lot of problems with your personal ego with that? I mean, not saying you have a big ego, but just saying, like, any human comes in like, hey, man, I played in a bowl game. I played in front of big crowds. I did these things.
No, I didn't have a problem per se with my ego, but most athletes have confidence, I should say. Probably not an ego, but they have confidence within their ability. That's kind of how I landed with Pitt. They saw my teammate, who was 6'5", 250 defensive end. Well, that's you're gonna pull coaches to come look at this kid, and while they're looking at him, well, who's this other kid?
Who was the DN that they were at?
Isaac Montgomery was his name.
Okay.
Pitt offered him. He was going to come to Pitt, but at the time he was North Carolina was big.
Okay.
With Dre Bly and guys like
Yep,
that.
I remember those teams.
And he was a North Carolina fan.
So he ended up at Carolina.
He ended up at North
Yeah.
Carolina, and I ended up at Pitt.
So what a lot of people, what no one probably knows, maybe CJ, is what town are you from?
I'm from a town called Princeton, West Virginia.
So that is nowhere.
Yes.
Best way to describe it.
Nowhere.
It's an exit off 19, right?
I believe, yeah.
Okay, I believe. You don't even know you're from there.
Well, it's been a while. I don't really travel that much back home, but yeah, it's a small town. Not as small as others in West Virginia, believe it or not. There's some pretty small towns, pretty small counties. McDowell County is another is one that it's woods and good people, very good people. They work hard, but yeah, West Virginia is definitely
Not a lot going on in Princeton.
no, not a lot. They try.
Yeah.
They try.
I've been to Princeton, West Virginia. Fun fact, as you would say,
I've
CJ.
not been.
I've been many places in my years, but I think just getting recruited out of somewhere like that is hard because people don't notice you, and
Absolutely.
like I was saying before we started recording, when you have Central Catholic or Steubenville High School or some of these powerhouses in the region,
Yeah.
it's so much easier for Walt Harris or Wanstead or whoever it may be, whichever coach it is at the time, to go to Central Catholic and watch. And they're going to look
Absolutely.
at 7 guys, even a North Allegheny in Pittsburgh or
Yeah.
Montour, as opposed to, hey, we're going to go to Princeton because there's a defensive back there that we think might be something. Like, that's not always going to be high on the radar.
No, you're absolutely right. It's West Virginia, the state of West Virginia at the time only had less than 150 high schools throughout the whole state. How many schools are in just the Whippeal?
Yeah.
So you don't have that many players throughout the state. Talent wise, you're not going to get much. Now there are pockets of talent in West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
It's not consistent year in and year out, but there are guys out there, at least in my opinion, that can play at that Division I level, at that high Division I level.
I realized how small West Virginia was when it became popular about 10, 15 years ago. Start putting your area code and everything you own. The 412 has and all that. And West Virginia has one area code.
Yes.
That covers the state.
The whole state.
The whole state.
One
Allegheny
area
County
code.
has 2. West Virginia has 1.
Yes.
304. If you live in West Virginia, you are 304.
304.
And I think that puts in perspective. I mean, just getting recruited out of that, such a small group of just humans, but not only that, not somewhere that traditionally has brought in the athletes. Because,
Exactly.
as a guy, like I said, who's worked in it, I know you all. You had all your coaches. Your defense back recruited in North Florida, and your linebacker coach did South Florida.
Yeah.
And one guy did Georgia, and West Virginia was always like, oh yeah, you have Ohio, the WPIAL. Yeah, pick up West Virginia. It was never one that was like, hey, go look at West Virginia. So obviously, like you said, two dudes from one high school going D1. I assume you guys had a pretty good team back then.
Well, we had some players, but unfortunately, we wasn't as successful. I think my senior year, it was the only time we went to the playoffs.
Okay.
We actually played against the team that we lost to, Morgantown High. Actually had a Division I player of their own. He was going to Notre Dame, receiver by the name of Ronnie Ronimer. And that year was pretty interesting, my senior year. We had a total of 5 players that went to Division I schools other than Marshall and West Virginia that year. So I don't know how common that was or uncommon that was. But that was pretty interesting. At least I noticed that, and it was pretty cool. But to your point about states like West Virginia, Delaware, Rhode Island, Connecticut, all those smaller states, or those states out west that play 7-on-7 football, it is hard, and they're not priorities simply because of the numbers. And you can go to Western Pennsylvania, or you can go to the state of Ohio, which has very good football, and then you go to the traditional areas like Florida, like Texas, California. Those players, as they say, dime a dozen. Which, I was definitely pleased to get recognized by schools to take a chance on coming down, visiting me, looking at my film, really dissecting my film, and telling me, yeah, we like you.
So I gotta ask you a couple Pitt stories. One, a lot of our lifters in the gym know who Buddy Morris is because Buddy Morris is kind of, in this area, the godfather of strength and conditioning.
He's probably one of the OGs of strength and conditioning.
Yeah, he's the original. And I interned for him in '99, and it opened my eyes to the world. You gotta give us one, PG-13 Buddy story. One of the fun ones.
Well, like I said earlier, I don't really have any long stories with Buddy. Buddy, people who know Buddy, they know he's very intense in what he does. He means business. When I met Buddy, no smiles. It's
true.
He just wants to see, once you get into the weight room, you're his, and he wants to see what you can do. If you're mentally tough enough, and he'll know. And that's the thing about Buddy. He definitely knows guys that can contribute and guys that may need a little work, then they can contribute, and then guys that have no business being at this level. And he's told players. In my freshman year this summer, I'm working out, and he's telling guys, you should probably end yourself and start over. And I'm listening, and I'm saying, wow, it's pretty straightforward.
Brutal. Yeah.
But that's Buddy though, But he's also he's a very cool person. His office was always open for anybody, regardless whether you're the star player or a walk-on. Buddy, he respected work. If you put in the work, you got his respect. And if you got Buddy's respect, you got something big.
Mm. Yeah, I remember one guy who, I'm not gonna lie, he was a pain in the ass in the weight room, and I think, but he still respected Buddy, even though he's a pain in the ass in the weight room, and a hell of a player was Kevin Barlow.
Yeah.
Kevin was a pain. He just, he wanted to do things Kevin's way.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing, him and Buddy, and I, like you said, I think Buddy respected his hard-headedness, and I think Kevin actually respected Buddy because Buddy wasn't going to let it slide.
Exactly.
And I remember there were times that Kevin was walking a fine line getting thrown off team.
Yeah, see, I didn't play with Kevin Barlow, but I do know Kevin.
Yeah.
I came in a year or two after
Okay.
they were done, so I walked, I hung out with him a couple of times and spoke with him and talked to him, and you're right. Everybody knew about Kevin Barlow and how challenging it can be to reel him in, and and get
He
going.
was a heck of a running back too.
No question about it. He definitely was a very good running back. And Pitt is with Kevin Barlow, and years later, Pitt has had some really good running backs.
Mm-hmm.
But with Buddy, Buddy was able to reel him in and make him be the player he could be.
And he got quite a few years in the NFL out of it.
Yes, he did.
I remember. I
Yes,
mean,
he did.
the interesting guy back then. I'm gonna start getting into my sports talk radio hat here, Josh. Was Kevin's backup, who I thought was just as athletic, Nick Goins.
Yeah.
I think we
Nick
talked
Goins.
about him once. That
Yeah.
dude played in the NFL, 7 or 8 years.
Yes, he did.
He was with the Panthers, and he kind of bounced around. But that dude walked like an athlete, talked like, actually he didn't talk at all. He just showed up and worked. But that dude was one of those guys, when you saw him,
Yeah.
that dude's an athlete.
Yeah.
And he
was a transfer from Ohio State.
Yeah, he transferred in when Walt got there.
Yeah.
And that dude, like I said, just an athlete. And there are those guys that you can see him when they walk.
Yeah.
Like that guy's an athlete. I don't know what he does. And when you're talking Ohio State, you see that one guy walk in, you're like, don't want to run into him.
Yeah.
He's going to run me over. That's going to hurt. But he was a perfect example of one of those people who just kind of had it. And, I mean, there were a lot of those guys. So went through the Buddy story. Now,
Well, before you,
go ahead.
I will give you this one story with Buddy.
Oh,
A personal story with me, which is funny. I find it funny. He always got me mixed up with a teammate of mine, Tez Morris. He was I was the starting strong safety. Tez was the starting free safety, and we did look similar. Our bodies, our size, we were definitely similar. And Buddy would always call me Tez. And then he would realize it and say, "Sorry, Ty." And and I was like, "That's okay." And a few years ago, I went to Pitt spring football game, and Buddy was there. And I went to Buddy, and I said, "What's up, Buddy?" He said, "Hey, Tez, how you doing?"
Oh, man.
And he realized it. He said, "I'm sorry, Ty."
Just like old times.
Yeah, just like old times. But because it's Buddy, I don't mind.
Sure.
I don't mind. Buddy is that kind of person. He means that much, at least to me. Coming from West Virginia, getting acclimated with the football program, which it's most of the time you're with the strength coach. So I enjoyed Buddy.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some of his training? How did you train as a football player in there? How was it? Was it pretty intense or pretty?
Well, yeah, it definitely was intense. Again, we're talking about Buddy Morris, so everything he does is intense. Chains. I never worked out with chains until I met Buddy. That was something different. Again, you had to. It's go back a little while. It's early. It's 2001, 2002. So there was some change in how things are done with workouts, but
He was on the front end.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Most definitely.
I mean, when I was there in '99, he was introducing chains and bands, and no one had that at the time.
Sure.
I mean, no one was using bands.
Not many schools were using chains. Yeah.
So I think he was so far ahead of everyone else on the curve, and he still is, and that's why he's hung around. I mean, he's in his 60s. He's still a strength coach, and there's not many guys that can continue to evolve. His former assistant, friend of mine, Tom Zielinski, down with the Jaguars.
Okay.
He was at Robert Morris before me, and he was a guy when I was at Pitt. He was playing with the Steelers. He used to come by and train, and that's how I knew him. And Milo, same thing. He's now in his mid-50s, I think.
Okay.
After he did 12 years in the NFL. Sounds like he was in prison. But played 12 years in the NFL, made a good bit of money, then went on in strength and conditioning, but has continued to evolve. And I think, back to what you were saying with, moving out of sport into life.
Yeah.
Like, just continuing to evolve. And that's what's kept Buddy, Milo, whether it be yourself, successful in life. Because if you want to have anything, you have to evolve. You have to change with the times. And if you don't, you're going to be caught flat-footed.
Absolutely.
And it's going to get you. But let me move into this. So, you guys had some good years. 4 bowl games, right?
Yeah, I went to a bowl game each year.
So what was the best thing? What was the what do you remember? What's the one thing?
One thing. I will say this. The Insight Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl. Both in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Insight Bowl was in Phoenix. The Fiesta Bowl was Arizona State in that area. The committee is one big committee, and they both did Insight as well as the Fiesta Bowl. Some of the best hospitality you're going to ever get. It was definitely a very good, very, very good experience that I had that I will always remember. We at least won one of the two games there out that way, but Phoenix, Scottsdale is where we stayed. Very nice place, and that committee, that was a very first class. And I be honest with you, sometimes I go back and forth to which experience was better. Was it the Insight Bowl, or the Fiesta Bowl? And just to give you guys,
yeah, but you won the Insight Bowl, so
that helps. Look, yeah, it does help, but just pure experience.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example, we had this game room. You had all the video games you wanted, which we played Madden or college football.
Right.
Pool tables, constant snacks, burritos. They had different each day. They made sure you didn't have to spend money on like food or anything like that. You only get so much money anyway for a bowl game. And again, I can't say enough that it was first class with both bowls.
Still some of the swag from back then, like me, DVD
I still do.
And all
I
that
still
stuff.
do. I still have some of the swag. Some of the swag doesn't work, but
right? The mini DVD player, it's a little outdated, but you know what? They gave it away back then.
Yes, they did.
I through my years of college athletics, I have some fun things I've collected, and some of them I can't throw away. Like, I'm not getting rid of this thing. This is cool. Like,
Exactly.
Antique vintage.
I have a thing of championship rings.
Okay.
No idea what I'm ever gonna do with it. Like, my son wants to take a school for show and tell, and I was like, put him in a sock or something. Just don't hit anyone over the head, and I don't care. But you collect this stuff, and it's cool. You're like, oh, I remember that. I don't want to lose that. I was at George Mason when we went to the Final Four in basketball.
Okay.
So that was, probably the most successful thing I've ever been around. And, like, I still have, like, the T-shirt from the Final Four game. Like, but I'm not getting rid of that T-shirt.
No, it's cool, man.
Like, it's LSU, Florida, George Mason. Like, come on. Like, it's powerhouses in
Absolutely.
George Mason. Like, that's just cool to have. So, keeping those little memories of it, it's important to keep that alive. And I think, like I said, having you talk about kind of transitioning in life, you still have those memories. You still can,
Yes.
and that's why I asked that question, because you never lose what you did.
Yeah.
You never lose, the success you had in life. You just move and have success in new areas.
Absolutely.
And so now, I know you said you work for the Turnpike Commission.
Yes.
You're an accountant?
No, I do. I work under the compliance department.
Okay.
I do internal, external investigations. I'm
Okay.
an investigator for the Turnpike, and that's pretty much.
So you're gonna find out CJ's not paying his bill?
Yeah, I missed the change thing. Right?
Well, hey,
I threw
I
a
definitely
change.
will. They will let me know.
Yeah. it's all photos now, right? You just fly through Easy Pass.
Well, I went through. Interestingly enough, I went through with my Easy Pass recently, and then I got a letter that said you need an updated credit card to your Easy Pass, so you're not paying anything. I was like, I got you guys. Don't worry, I got so. So if you see an address and you see my name on it, just let's give that one a week. I got you. We'll take care of it.
Find your money.
Yeah.
We'll go on record. You said that, not me.
Well, man, I think you've given us some great thoughts here on, what, where you're from, how you do things, and how, now you're similar to my age guy,
Yeah.
a little younger than myself. Do you have goals now outside of, I know you're in here every day training hard, but what are your goals? What are your...
Well, yes. Do I have goals? Yeah, I have goals that I want to work on. Well, for one, is I try to avoid it. I'm a coach's son. My dad is a basketball coach.
Okay.
He coached football too, but his main passion was basketball, and I tried to avoid it, but part of it you can't let go. Like I said, I'm watching the game. I'm critiquing the game. And certain things I see, others may not see, or why is this person backpedaling this way? Why are you doing this in the red zone? And so it took a while, but I'm starting to get involved with just helping young guys who think they're able to play at a Division I level, or just play college ball.
Mm-hmm.
Period. And just give them some tips. Have them send me some film. I'll take a look at what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. There's a lot of guys out there that are doing drills with kids, which is fine because they need that. But there's other things, other aspects of the game, the X's and O's, if you will, that I don't know if people are really going in or digging into with these kids. You can do so many drills, but if you're not extremely talented and can get away with your talent, a lot of those guys, they fail because they're not smart enough to, or they don't utilize the X's and O's. They don't become students of the game, I should say, which is very, very important because there's not much difference with most of the players at that level. And I'm talking, that high Division I level. You're going to get your Larry Fitzgeralds, your Darrelle Revises. You're going to get guys like that. But then you got the other guys. So what separates you from the other player that they've recruited? Well, I'm in the film room. I'm studying. I'm dissecting the offenses that we're playing against, and becoming a student of the game, which helps a lot with longevity, especially in NFL. One of the guys I watched while I was at Pitt and admired was John Lynch. One of the reasons I watched John Lynch was we kind of ran a Tampa 2 style of defense. So I was kind of told to watch John Lynch and how he played. But just watching him and some of the things that he did, and I'm not going to say he was not athletic, because John Lynch was definitely a very athletic football player. But he was always around. He put himself in definitely very good positions to be successful on the field. And that's all due to being a student of the game.
And I think that's, such an underappreciated thing in athletics is if you're smart, you can help your speed so much. Absolutely. By being in the right position. And as a strength coach, I've watched her for years, is that, and soccer always stood out to me because it's more of an open field. So soccer relates more like a safety to me, where you have a lot of field to work with, you have vision, you can make decisions. And I would look at soccer players, and again, I think it relates a lot to the safety, because if I have two guys here and one guy knows where the ball is going to be, he's going to get to the ball faster. Doesn't matter who's actually faster, because he's making 2 steps ahead, making that decision quicker, faster. And I think that's probably one of the mistakes. And it's funny, I know one of our frustrating things as strength coaches is there's a lot of kids out there doing drills, like you said, and anyone can make
sand ladders.
Run a kid into the ground, make them sweat hard. Like, you can do drills all day long, but at the end of the day, I always say, what's the end game? Like, how are you quantifying that drill? How's that drill going to relate to me on the field tomorrow? How's that going to be a decision making?
Exactly.
How's that going to be? And not only that, part of it is sitting there knowing that it's knowing the other team.
Situational football.
Yeah. No, I forget what baseball pitcher I was reading about recently, and he said, I knew every batter. And I went up to my catcher and one batter in the league. And he said, I couldn't remember one pitch that, did he like it or did he not? And my catcher was like, what are you talking about? And the catcher didn't know the game the way the pitcher knew the game. Yeah. And the best, you want to be the best, you're going to know that. Yeah. You're going to know. And that's actually, like I said, using LeVar Arrington. And I don't know LeVar, and I've never really been around him. But, the way he played the game, I think he relied, the way it appeared, on talent. Instead of being in the right position. When he was at Penn State, he was in the right position because he was so much better.
Absolutely.
But when you get the NFL, now it's that be a student. And I think it's a mistake you see often with not just young kids, but NFL players, everyone.
Absolutely.
Be a student of the game. Know where you need to be. Yeah. And I think lifters can learn that. Curtis is a student of the game in lifting.
Sure.
How many lifters don't know the position they need to be in at every point of a lift? And it's a simple thing, because you're not competing against anyone else. Yeah. But if you don't know it, one of the best lifters of all time, Ed Cohen, talked about doing squats, 10-second squat, where he said that every bit of that 10 seconds, make sure you're in the exact right position. It's probably no different than being a defensive back. If a play is 7 seconds long, check it 1 second to be in the right position. At 2 seconds, at the third second I'm in the wrong position, game over.
Yeah, that's happened a lot faster than squatting.
Yes.
But I agree with that. It's a lot of people. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but utilizing your brain and being that student, it helps so much. When I was there my freshman year, the starting strong safety was Mark Ponko.
Ponko was strong.
Yeah, Ponko was a football player. That's
he
how
was a
you
walk-on. I think
yes,
he came
yes,
in.
He was.
He was a walk-on. Yeah.
Mark was a walk-on.
About 5'1".
Well, I'm not going to say that.
He didn't look like a safety.
No, but
he worked himself onto the field.
Yes, he did. And watching Ponko, because I knew I wasn't going to start my freshman year, he knew so much.
Yeah.
And when I went there, and we're having spring practice, and I just got there, so I don't really know much. And Coach Rhodes, Paul Rhodes, he's explaining defenses, explaining coverages, and he's doing it fast because that's how the game is. You only have so many seconds to break down the offense and get yourself in the right position. So he's talking fast, and then he goes to me and says, "Ty, what are you doing on this?" And I'm just throwing out answers, hoping that they stick. And so I told him, "I don't know." And that kind of was my thing. I don't know. And then I just told him, "Hey, look, Coach, let me have some time with you," and which he did. And we made time, and I made notes. I wrote down all the notes. Still have those notes to this day of what with Coach and I discussion. But going back with Mark Ponko, I would just watch him because Mark knew all the positions in the defense. He knew what the outside linebackers did. He knew what the inside linebackers did, safeties, DNs, D tackles, and because he knew that, and I'm watching him, it kind of stuck with me, being a student of the game. I was one of those guys that just, I'm talented enough, I'm good enough. But then when you watch a guy like him, and he was so helpful to me, which I definitely appreciated, it made sense.
So you still in touch with Ponko?
I'm not in touch with Ponko,
okay.
but when we have events, we'll say hi and things like that. But
the reason I asked, I was kind of curious because I remember him when he was like a sophomore. He just maybe going to junior year, right when he earned a scholarship, I think, at Pitt, because he was a walk-on, like I said. And back then, this was a different era of strength conditioning where the weight room was open from 8 to 4 and you had to lift. That was it.
It was like open hours.
Yeah, and every day. And we would just sit in the weight room and wait for dudes to show up. And Ponko was always the early dude.
Yeah.
And so my guess would be he's doing okay in life because,
sure.
He, like you said, he was a student of the game. I didn't know that, but I knew he was a student in the weight room.
Yeah.
I knew at safety he probably benched close to 400 pounds.
He's a strong guy,
I knew he was strong. I knew he worked hard. I knew when he showed up, Buddy was going to say, Ponko's good.
Yeah.
Like, we need to coach him, but basically that means we need to spot him and keep him moving because Ponko's good.
Yeah.
So, I think, like I said, moving from, the adage of how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah.
Ponko was probably a great example for you coming in. Like,
absolutely.
Shows up at lifting on time.
Yeah.
Works hard. Does this right. And I think, having those mentors and also realizing that one of my pet peeves in this world is people talk about being a self-made man.
Yeah.
And I hate that. No one's a self-made man because everyone had, when you got to Pitt, you said, here's this safety. I'm not playing.
Yeah.
I know I'm not playing this year, but let me study from him,
exactly.
And let me use Paul Rhodes, who went on to be a head coach. Is he still where's he coaching now?
I don't know.
Okay.
Last, was it after Arizona State?
Iowa State, as head coach.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to him there.
Yeah, I know he's somewhere. I just looked it up several months ago,
okay.
and I don't recall where he's working now. But yeah, I definitely learned from Coach Rhodes, Mark Ponko, and I throw in another guy, Gary Urschler, who's a local guy, who's a walk-on, earned a scholarship his senior year. Those guys, they were just students of the game, and I was smart enough to realize that gives me an edge. So I took advantage of it.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, as the only self-respecting, apparently, Penn State person on this podcast,
I have a degree from there.
I have a championship ring.
I had to lean in to talk. I don't know why.
Okay. LeVar Arrington played in the league for 6 years, was a 3-time Pro Bowler, and had to retire due to a bad back.
But
so suck it, Hammer.
I didn't think he was a.
He never. But the thing is, he was.
He never what?
He never what pick was he in the NFL draft?
He was like a first rounder, right?
Yeah, he was.
And you're
that
looking
sounds
at,
right.
he should have been a Hall of Famer with his ability.
He was second overall.
Second overall pick, 6 years in the NFL is a bust. I think that's a fair statement.
Well,
You can't.
I don't want to
A
call
guy
him,
gets
I don't wanna call him
hurt.
Okay,
bust,
you're right, not a bust.
A guy gets
but
hurt.
Yeah.
I understand the expectation
The
for a guy like
expectation
little
was
higher.
Hall of Famer.
yeah.
The reality was pretty good
Three-time
player.
Pro Bowler.
Yeah,
Then he
don't
got
get me
hurt.
wrong.
Then he couldn't continue.
Look, everybody would have
I-
want to have what he had.
I'm not taking away from it. All I'm
Career-wise.
saying is he
I'm watching
never
you, Hammer.
quite fulfilled in the NFL. You know, there are a lot of guys, as a Penn State guy, Curtis Enos. Never quite
Okay.
did in the NFL. But then you
Okay.
take a Pitt guy, Curtis Martin, did all the great things. So I'm just saying maybe Pitt has a way of putting NFL dudes out there. I actually, one of my theories...
flag back.
One of my
He has to
theories
throw it again.
in life is this: if you look at Pitt and Penn State players in the NFL, it's close. They're nose to nose. And you look at players who have gone on to success in the NFL, and you look, Pitt does really well against Penn
Yes,
State.
they do.
They don't win as much. And this is just a kind of an outsider theory. Is my belief is Penn State has a certain aura about it that Pitt is never quite able to replicate. And I think it creates this culture where they just tend to win more in the college game. And I grew up a Pitt fan. But I always look at Penn State, and again, I think it's just a cultural thing. Like when you go to Pitt, when you come on a Friday night to the stadium, there's no one tailgating, there's no 100,000 people. But at Penn State, you get the chills when you get that. Not saying you didn't get the chills coming out of the tunnel, but I think there's a certain just aura that some of those larger schools have. And I say larger, meaning the land grant universities, the Big Ten universities. Just for the record, Josh is looking up how many players in the NFL Pitt versus Penn State.
No, I see.
And
I see.
and I'm gonna be willing to wager. I bet you it's slimmer when you look at Pitt with your Shady McCoys and your Larry Fitzgeralds, your Darrell Reeveses, and not just players, but I'm talking about players.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Larry
Names,
Fitzgerald,
big
Hall of
names.
Famers. Darrell Reeves, Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And obviously you can go back to, the Dan Marinos of the world. If you want to really start going back, that every year it seems that they're nose to nose, and maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel that there's a certain something that Penn State has that Pitt can't replicate.
Well, how you fix that with Pitt is you win. That's the key, right? From my experience, and it was a nice period. We had some bad moments, but we had some good moments. You got guys like Antonio Bryant, Larry Fitzgerald, Ramon Walker.
I forgot about Antonio.
Yeah.
He was a heck of a player.
Exactly. He's a Blitnikoff winner. We didn't win enough. And when you're playing in Western Pennsylvania, you got the Steelers, you got Pirates, you got the Penguins, high school football.
Sure.
You got to stand out. And how do you stand out as far as Pitt? You got to win. They have rich history that aura, as you say, can be there, but you have to win. Look at a school like Miami, which is in a similar situation.
Yeah.
They're an urban school, if you want to call it that. They're in Miami, and if they're not winning, they're not getting many people to come into their games. They're not getting the support that you would think out of Miami, and I don't know too much about USC, but it's almost similar as well.
I mean, any of those city schools, I think, give a hard time.
And that's an issue. And that's an issue that people, I think, don't look at when you're talking about Penn State, Ohio State campuses. You have that experience. Pitt. You're going to the O.
The O's
It's
closed.
a regular. Well, yes,
The O's
unfortunately,
shut down.
which is sad.
Sad.
Which is very sad. Very, very sad.
Josh is very concerned over there. He has news about his numbers game of Pitt versus Penn State.
Penn
NFL
State has
players.
produced 263 NFL players to this date. Pitt, unfortunately, has produced 20 more at 283.
Oh, look at Pitt coming through with more NFL players than Penn State. So back to my point, I think it's a valid conversation piece. Is like you said, winning. I've always said winning breeds winning.
Yeah.
And when I was a Robert Morris strength coach, 12 years, I had one winning season. and losing breeds losing.
Yeah.
And I truly believe one of the problems is that certain pride that people have, and I think people who play at Pitt have pride and are proud of that. But there's a difference with those large land-grant universities that there's just that little bit extra they're playing for, like maybe a 1%, a 0.1%, and you add that up over a team, and for whatever reason, you take a Penn State and they tend to have the winning record against Pitt. Now, Pitt's done well against them in the last, whenever they'll play each other.
Yeah.
But still, realistically, Pitt's going to go 8-4.
Yeah.
And Penn State's going to go 9-3. They're going to find a way to always be 1 or 2 games above them, and it's just been something that's intrigued me for a long time.
No, I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. I don't know. You always hear the conversation. They need to put a football stadium in Oakland.
On campus.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to do it.
Well, there's nowhere to do it, and will that really make a difference? Then you talk to the old guys, and they say, well, they didn't fill up Old Pitt Stadium.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. It is fascinating to a degree that Penn State, they have success. They're always, and once they start winning, they just skyrocket with the exposure. They're always, they get the benefit of the doubt because they're Penn State and Pitt. They have to continue working hard, and yes, they'll have players that play in the NFL. They'll have guys that people don't know he's in the NFL. I didn't even know that. He's at Pitt. It is definitely weird, but if you're coming to Pitt, you obviously took a visit, so you got to understand this is the experience you're going to have. And it was kind of similar to what I wanted anyway. I wanted to go to a urban environment school, and Pitt was definitely is an urban school. So,
and we can remember the great closing of Pitt Stadium. As a Penn State guy, you don't get to appreciate this moment with us. When Robbie Butler, Pittsburgh guy, Robert Morris alum, NFL guy, probably didn't make lists since he transferred. Robbie Butler breaking up the pass in the end zone against Notre Dame to seal the victory. Yeah. 10 seconds or something on the clock, and the fans come out with X-Acto knives and start cutting the turf up, and the officials were trying to get their fans off the turf. So as we're coming to our closing here, I think that's just kind of a perfect memory. So our Penn State fan can get a little upset over here, and I know you said it was always more West Virginia Notre Dame thing for you. But that final play at Pitt Stadium, I'll never forget, and because I was at that game. Because I had just finished interning and I came back for that game.
Yeah, they invited me. I actually was at the game as well, and they invited me to come watch the game. First time I met Tony Dorsett too.
Oh yeah.
Which was cool.
Ironhead was at that game too.
I didn't meet Ironhead, unfortunately.
He was. There it is right there. Look at that. We got the video right here. Of
I stormed the field.
Stormed the field. I was on the field right there.
I didn't have a knife, so but
you didn't cut up any of the turf?
No, I didn't cut up any of the
what year was this?
turf.
What was it, 2000?
No, it was 90. No, it was the fall of '99. Okay. I was a senior in high school, and it was the fall of '99. We just lost the playoff game to Morgantown.
Okay.
So the next day, I came from Morgantown, came up to Pitt to watch Pitt beat Notre Dame, which I was very happy about that because I really don't like Notre Dame.
Well, no one likes Notre Dame. No one likes it. Yeah, they tore down the goalpost. The game wasn't over yet, and the best part is Pitt didn't have a practice facility. So there was no turf left. The field goal post was missing, and Pitt had to practice. They didn't have anywhere to practice. So I forget. I think they went down like Carnegie Mellon or something for next week to practice. I don't even remember how they did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because that was the practice field. And they still had the West Virginia game on the next week. So that was back then. You practiced outside of Pitt Stadium no matter what. And what did you do? You got cold. You got hot. You did whatever it was. But yeah, so, well, hey, man, thank you for coming on. Do you have any deep thoughts for us for CJ
this is a good trip down memory lane.
Yeah. No, we appreciate your time. Fine member of Union Fitness.
Yeah. Always getting after it.
Always training
Still
hard.
using chains to this day.
Yeah, still using chains.
Well, Buddy would be proud. I'll have to
I
send him
hope so.
this. I'll send him the
so.
link. He won't listen, but I'll send him.
Well, he'll look at it and say, "Hey, that's Tez."
Yeah. Oops,
Tez looks good, man. The mask is really gonna mess him up.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah, you
It
put a
will.
mask on, he might call you anyone. Who knows?
He probably will, knowing Buddy, and it's okay.
That's great. Well, hey, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, thanks for the invite, man.
And Josh,
Appreciate it.
Pitt had more NFL players in Penn State. Never forget it.